Hey everyone, today I want to talk about some of the recent developments that have come along with Todd deciding to hire on Carl Lentz with his church. And if you remember a few weeks ago, actually a few years ago, I think back in 2020, there was this big scandal that kind of emerged with Hillsong when it came to Carl Lentz's alleged affair with someone. She actually came forward and shared her story about how she had gotten involved with Carl Lentz. And one of the things that made it interesting, but also I think more salacious, was the fact that Carl Lentz is a married father and he has 2 or 3 kids and a wife. So he was someone who was known as a family man, somebody who had a visible family, who was in the public eye. And then she came forward and shared, the relationship that they had and the fact that it turned inappropriate, for lack of a better term. And so through all those developments, Carl Lentz eventually decided to resign from his position as a pastor there. And there was this kind of big debacle about, that we always talk about when it comes to morals, when it comes to ministers, when it comes to pastors, and the fact that we tend to hold these people to a higher standard. However, when you think about it, a lot of times we also hold politicians to a higher standard. If there's something going on in their personal life, if there's something happening within their family, we tend to judge their job performance on what's happening in their personal life. And I think pastors are no exception to that rule. In a lot of different circumstances, you wouldn't necessarily lose your job if you had an affair or if you had a lapse of judgment in some way, shape, or form. Of course, there are those instances where your job will fire you because you're not being a good representation of the company. But for the most part, we kind of leave matters of morality alone in some ways when it comes to job performance and when it comes to people staying, in their career. However, for ministers and pastors, anything that has to do with like morality or not being the person that they say they are, I think it's really easy to point the finger at them as a hypocrite. And while I'm glad that Transformation Church and Michael Todd has really extended that hand back out to Carl Lentz, because think about it, a lot of pastors don't necessarily have skill sets or degrees or education that would put them on a different path. Of course, Carl Lentz is a little bit different in that he has charisma, he has a great personality, and he has a presence that really could help him do well in other realms. But I think his dedication, his commitment lies with what he's been doing so far, and I think he really does enjoy his job. And I think that's evident by some of the sermons that we watch and some of his interactions, that he does like what he does. And so the fact that he's getting another chance and getting a chance to pastor another church, I think really is an indication that, times are changing. 20, 30 years ago, this would not be something where a pastor could come back from. However, we are a lot more forgiving, at least on the surface, than we used to be. And at the end of the day, people come to churches for many different reasons. And one of those reasons, honestly, is to be entertained. If you think about some of the largest megachurches, their services tend to be productions. People come for the music, for the lights, for the ambiance. And while that can be good, I think it also brings up the larger question, what exactly is the purpose of church? Are we going there to be entertained? Are we going there to receive knowledge of some type? And, personally, in my experience, church has always kind of been a place of duty and responsibility. It hasn't necessarily been a place of fun. And so I think that it's different. People start to associate fun with church because, the whole idea of adhering to some tenets, the 10 Commandments, or some sets of guidelines kind of tends to, I think, go towards the belief that it's not necessarily fun. But mega churches have made Christianity look fun in a lot of ways. They made it look attractive. They've really attracted celebrities and people who are in high places who now say that they are Christian, they attend such and such mega church. And so I think it's important to be careful with how we market mega churches, but also recognize that Christianity for a lot of people is just the team that they play for. So when it comes to these personalities and these pastors, a lot of times they're just kind of marketing gurus. They don't necessarily have a lot of theological training or trying to get people to be theologically sound. It's more about, raising awareness, getting market share, selling merch, and selling videos and selling books. There's usually something that's attached to their message when it comes to selling some type of product or bringing people to some type of conference. So I think my takeaway from everything, especially when it comes to this whole situation, and even with the recent viral Easter video that came up of Michael Todd's church and their Easter production, I think it really highlights the need for an honest look at the role that religion plays in a lot of people's lives. Does it help them or does it harm them? Does it hinder them? Does it push them forward? And the answers to those questions can lead us to a deeper dialogue on, what directions makes the most sense to go in, and what do we want to teach our kids about religion and some of the some of the current churches and the options that are available when it comes to religion and spirituality. Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to catch me on the next video.